Howdy ho, friends and foes, and welcome to Dad's on Life, what was once weekly opposite show, parenting from a male perspective, but it's been a few weeks since we've been here. Um, with me, as always, are my co-hosts Keith Bogan,
Top of the morning.
Chad Holloway,
Good morning.
Doug Hemedike,
Morning.
and Dave Dusenberry. Today we're going to be talking about, as we now have officially crossed into the Christmas season, traditions, Christmas, Hanukkah, all that stuff. Even though the one guy who actually should be celebrating Hanukkah really doesn't. So
I never said that.
yeah, okay. So who wants to kick us off?
I guess I will. So with it being the holiday season, obviously this time between Thanksgiving and Christmas is a time that as much as we can, we try to spend time with our family and friends and loved ones as much as we can. And especially for dads, it's a busy time. Our cohort Doug is outside right now taking care of classic dad associated busy work, hanging lights and doing things, and there's presents to buy and meals to cook and schedules to plan and everything like that. So, and there's a couple of ways that this goes at this time. We have folks in joint families where, it's just kind of seems to be a road of life. We have some dads like myself from families that have separated or divorced or have arrangements and time arranged with the kids, where you have that extra challenge of having to plan and schedule holiday time within a given legal framework, I suppose is the only way I could think of it. So like, how do you manage that? Like, how do you maximize that and make it feel like Christmas, even if you don't necessarily have all of the time that you would want to have with your kids? Either they're younger and you're on a schedule like that, or they're older and they're out of the house, and getting everybody together to be able to have that time, during the holidays. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. What do you guys think?
Well, I can comment on the latter part of that because obviously my kids are ancient now. They're 20 and 23. But as they were going through college, so there's a couple of things that go on with them. First, I am obviously a divorced man, so the kids have a mom and a dad that live in different places. The kids also are very, very active in marching band and they do drum corps in the summers. So I'll talk about Jeremy for a moment. Jeremy is home. What is it? He'll be home on December 18th. He'll leave again on December 26th. There's a 50-50 shot I won't see him again until around May 10th. And I shouldn't say that. I won't see him here in New Jersey until around May 10th. And that's our life. And then when he's here in May, he'll be here from May 8th to June 1st, and that's it. And in fact, that may even be gone because he's thinking of switching drum corps that would start to one that starts earlier. So holiday aside and divorce parenting aside, he's hardly here, and Justin now lives here, but that was his schedule until just until August when he graduated from school and came back here. Now I spent a lot of time with him, but we have a different philosophy in this house that I've never encountered with anybody else, and that was that when I got divorced, I think there's a schedule in our divorce agreement that says you get the kids on this day and you get the kids on this day. And I looked at her after we signed the papers and said, at that point, Jeremy was 16. You can't tell them where to go because they're not going to be, whatever you tell them to do, they're going to rebel against. They're going to want to do their own thing. They're adults. And she agreed, actually. I give her credit for that. She agreed. And so they kind of go where they want. But I also said, you take them for every holiday. I don't care, because to me, and I've said this on the show many times, to me, if I'm with the boys, it is a holiday. I don't care what day it is. we find a way to do things together and enjoy time together, because time together is so precious, regardless, especially with Jeremy, who we hardly see. So, for instance, this past Thanksgiving, on that particular day, Justin went to a dinner that was hosted by his Uncle Ed, where his grandmother was. I encouraged him to see his grandmother as often as possible. And oh, by the way, his mother was there too. Well, that kind of makes sense. And I went and I hung out with some bozo. Oh, anyway, that was Jason. Never mind. So we weren't together for that holiday, but to me, that's just a day on a calendar. I don't really care that it happened to be something, a specific holiday. Likewise, as Jason points out, I celebrate, and I do celebrate Hanukkah. We do light candles here every night, but for the last 5 years, I've done it alone. Candles are supposed to be lit by the children, but if they're not here, you can't do that. And when they're not here, they don't like candles. They don't really much care. But when they are, we do it together. It's not a major holiday, even in the Jewish religion, let alone for us. It's kind of a minor holiday, actually. But we enjoy the time together. If it's Passover or if it's Rosh Hashanah, we'll have certain meals together. If we happen to be in the same state, but we're so rarely in the same state, that also doesn't really much matter. And Justin now has been dating the same girl for 7 years, who will be my daughter-in-law at some point. And I always encourage him on a holiday, you go there. If you're not with your mother, you go there. Because to most people, holidays mean something. They're different. To me, a holiday is when I'm with the boys. That's all that matters.
Can we not talk about Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, please?
Okay. That's a loaded question.
One of them I spent the night in the hospital. So yeah, can we not talk about that, please?
Now, was it because of the holiday?
No, I had a kidney stone.
Okay. Kidney stones are not Jewish. Last I checked.
Is I don't know, is pepper kosher?
Depends on your point of view.
Okay.
I'm just teasing, but no, I was one of the prior to one of the last shows that was that, and I was actually in the hospital for it. But no, I understand what you mean. We actually we usually get together for Hanukkah because my in-laws are Jewish. My wife's Jewish. Usually it's for Hanukkah, but it's between Christmas and Hanukkah. Usually it's not even close to either holiday. Because my brother-in-law's birthday coincides, like, it's the week before Christmas. So everything kind of all runs together. And usually it's like within either this week or the next couple of weeks, but and we usually have ended up going up to Fairlawn, but situations dictated, and we ended up doing it yesterday down here in Monroe, which worked out well because the girls had a belt ceremony for jiu-jitsu, so we had to be at the local middle school, which is only 15 minutes, maybe tops, from my in-laws. So it was finish that, go there, and we left there at 7:15, and we were home by 7:25. So, but in that discussion, we talked about somewhat what we're going to do for Christmas Day. Still got to get my head around it, but most likely, like for the last two of the last 3 years. Last year, I don't believe they were here because I'm going to say, although I was never diagnosed with it, all four of us had COVID between the week of Christmas and the week of New Year, and between Christmas and New Year's, all four of us had COVID. So we didn't do it last year. 2 years ago, we did it because it was something to do and get together with my in-laws. And at the time, Disney and HBO Max were doing their at-home releases because there was no theaters to go to. So, or there was limited theaters to go to for Christmas Day, weren't opening really. But we also have done in the past. We've gone out to a Chinese buffet and gone to a movie. So I know what both sides of it, how playing both sides of the coin on holidays. Fortunately, holidays don't run together that often. They do, because Easter usually falls into Passover, and Christmas usually ends up falling somewhere right around Hanukkah.
It does this year, by the way.
It does this year, yes. And this year, the 2 days of Christmas, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Christmas Day, like I said, my in-laws will be here. And Christmas Eve will be at my sister's, which has become a major tradition. It's got to be 13, maybe 15 years almost now that we've been doing it. So yeah, we've even in COVID, we actually were able to keep that alive. Smaller numbers, but we still did it. But this year it seems like we're going to be back to full tilt. A lot of people that haven't come in the last couple of years will be there. But yeah, we're definitely getting back to normal in that sense.
Could be worse. It could be China.
Yeah. Now, Chad, this is the second year you'll have everybody here, right? You had them here last year.
Yeah, I've got two of the three from Colombia, and then Frank will be visiting. So that it's been interesting. It's been an interesting kind of transition when he was younger years ago. He would split time. We had a pretty good split between his mother and I. So every Christmas Eve, he was with their family. And we just had a routine which worked out very well for us because we just knew when everybody was going to be where. And we made sure we worked all the grandparents in and the whole family. So, but now that he's a little older, as Keith's saying, it's kind of like you got to get him when you can. And, so he's going to his mom's house. I did not see him for Thanksgiving. His mom and he actually went to Las Vegas, which is pretty cool. But that's a whole other story because I told him, I said, I want to take you to Vegas. And then he told his mom, and there's still this competition going on, which is I hate. Ridiculous. So anyway, but we got that. So he's coming here on the 27th. I'm actually going to be flying him from St. Louis to Puerto Rico. And we're going to spend Christmas in Puerto Rico, where it's a little warmer than here, but it's still
nice.
Not too bad here. But
I'm going in your luggage.
There you go. Come on. Now, just don't wait too much. I was thinking about Frontier or Spirit Airlines.
Now, are you just going on vacation to Puerto Rico, or is somebody there that? No,
we just want to go see it, and it's I don't believe we need our passports or anything to travel there. So, it makes it easy, and it still counts as time in the United States for the girls. So, and that's what we need now until they get their citizenship. But so now we'll have the two girls, or our son is still in Colombia. His biological father won't let him leave, although he is looking at potential of a visa, but that they won't even have an opportunity to interview for a visa for 2 years. So that'll be 2025. They can interview for the visa.
Now you said your stepson is on the spectrum, right? And originally it was decided that he doesn't like change and you didn't want to move him around. Has that changed that thought? Or is that?
Well, he still, I don't think, likes change that much. But if we can get him, especially once we get a house and it's large enough, and he can come here and he can visit and stay, I think there'll be a few, acclimate him. There'll be a few tough days, but then once he's stabilized, then we're good for a little while.
Okay.
So, but and then with Frankie, it just he comes when we can get him here, and we enjoy it. So, but one of the things I was thinking about too is like gift giving, and how that has changed like over time for me. Like I know at one point I had one ex-wife who like went over the top, like it was unbelievable how much she bought at Christmas time, and we kind of had to match up with that. I don't know that everybody's experienced that, but just like the changes in philosophy about Christmas and, like, because in my family growing up, it was like, well, what do you want? and then they would assess. My parents would assess what I needed. So usually I get, a couple things that I needed, and then I get something I wanted. Like I remember one year I got like a compound bow and arrow, which is really cool. And just different things like that, but wasn't over the top. But I had, my most recent ex, she would spend thousands of dollars on just like these toys that, then you're looking in the kids' room and they're in the closet, they're not even opened. I'm like, this is a complete waste.
I agree.
So,
I have to
but I felt a great deal of pressure to match that. So Frankie didn't feel left out or lesser. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We got to talk about this most recent X stuff, man. You're scaring me there, dude. I swear.
It's funny because you bring up a good point. Obviously, my ex with my boys, she was very much the type of I love you, so I will buy you things. That's just how she chooses to show her love on stuff. And it's funny because my boys and I have talked about this, right? And there are times that they've actually told me that they feel that she is trying to buy their love and their loyalty on certain things. And we talk about it, and I've told them, like, this is not something that I can do. It's just not. I will, if there's something that you need, let me know, and I will work on it, and I will work with you to get it. But I am not one to buy frivolously, because otherwise it's a waste. Now, my boys are 14 and 16, so they can process this stuff now. I've told them repeatedly, if there's something that you want, I hate buying presents, right? So I'm not a shopper. I don't like buying stuff that I need. Nonetheless, stuff that I have no idea if somebody else needs or wants. It's just not my thing. So I'm very practical on that. And I tell them, if there's something that you want for Christmas, let me know. I don't mind spending the money if it's something that you either want or need. And I know that. Like my daughter was like, she wanted a laptop to run some games. So I'm like, well, that I can do. That's easy. So I went on, found something with a great specs and ordered it. And hopefully it comes in today. But, when it comes to the holidays, I tend to be very, I want to be very focused with what I get, because I think if it aligns with what they want, it means more than just like buying a bunch of crap. And it shows responsibility too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the difficulty in my situation was he had a stepsister, and the stepsister had been receiving that every year. So then I knew she was going to get that. So I had to either match up or, a lot of things go on in your head when you have a 5-year-old and you're like, okay, if he sees 30 presents over here and he sees 4 presents in his pile, what does he think? How does he feel? So I kind of acquiesced to her method.
Yeah, I was going to say, for us, just my boys have never been very materialistic, and it's kind of disappointing in some sense, the fact that they don't really look for anything. Their shopping list has always been very short for the letters of Santa. At 13, I still have a believer and an elf on a shelf. So there's that traditional new stuff coming on. And the other thing that I just wanted to mention was also that the changing of I was thinking if it was just my own personal thing, or if more of this is happening in a wider sense, because I've seen some articles about it, is that people might not be looking to get together in a big family sense. My mom comes from a large family. She's 11, and they always had these big Christmas parties, and that's what she remembers. And they're all in their 70s and 80s now, all my aunts. Most of them had, I would say, between 5 and 8 kids. So I got a whole lot of first cousins. So we remember all these great Christmas parties, fire halls and aunts' houses where you can't even fit in a house, and the kids are just told to go outside and play in the cold. So this year is actually, they posted, it'll be the last one. And it's like, because the cousins, even though there's 100 of us, nobody's keeping the let's say, the tradition together. I mean, we had moved some of the stuff to a summer festival at my aunt's house, but then what after that, you know? And it's just like that feeling of, you know, everybody getting together and people you don't know, but you probably should,
Mhm.
you know, and just that feeling of warmthness of the holiday spirit, bringing everyone together at least once a year, you know, is one thing. And is those types of gatherings really on the wayside, or?
For I know for us, Christmas and my sisters is not big, not usually that big because um, they don't really the room isn't there. They don't have a lot of room to do it. Um, but it's and they don't extend the invite out usually to cousins or anything like that. I'll get to that in 1 second. It usually just ends up being there's only 5 of us in of kids in the me and my sister, and then my brother-in-law, his sister, and his brother. It's only 5 of us. They don't extend usually the invite out to to Jack's cousin. Jack has a big family, but it's only the 3 of them direct in the direct family. Um, my sister, my sister's sister-in-law does it every year. It's become a tradition that she does a big family party at her house on Labor Day weekend, where you can go out, you know, everybody's in the pool or they're just even sitting outside. It's nice and warm, everybody relax, and they do it then. And that's a tradition for us now, which we actually ended up missing this year. Not all of us. The girls went with my sister, and Elisa and I had gone to see the release of Clerks 3. So we missed it this year, which as cool as going and getting to see Clerks 3 was, I missed seeing them because that is in essence, as large as my family is, I have a lot of cousins and a lot of family. There's not a lot of togetherness. There's cousins that I have that I haven't seen in a very long time, and that's probably not going to change. And on my father's side, I doubt, except for one, the other one of them, I don't know. Unfortunately, with the situation that happened with my aunt, I'm not sure I see a situation where I'll speak to my cousin again because of what happened. You guys all know my thoughts on what happened with that.
Yeah.
I don't want to rehash that. This is not the show to do that on. But and even on my wife's side of the family, I get along really, really well with her family, her cousins. I get along really well with them. They accepted me immediately, like walking in the door accepted me. And it started with her grandmother. Her grandmother was very accepting of me immediately. A little funny story about that was we were together a little over a year, and I get the window seat going to a bar mitzvah in Chicago. We're not even off the ground, and Grandma turns her head, and I said, "Oh boy, here we go." So when are you gonna get it? When are you gonna put a ring on my granddaughter's finger? So, oh shit, not even off the ground yet. So, but yeah, like I said, I've been accepted by her family pretty well, and Jack's family, that is my family. To an extent, that is my family. I mean, they're not, but they are. So yeah, that traditions will stay solid, including food. It's pretty much demanded of me every year that I make crawfish pie for my sister's house for Christmas Eve, and it's becoming tradition that I make I do bread pudding on Thanksgiving morning for my sister's house. So yeah, the traditions are still there. And I thankfully, gratefully, I don't see our traditions changing. I don't see it changing.
I hope not. It
No.
that's a good point about establishing traditions. Like when you're in a house where everybody's together, I guess it's obviously easier to maintain those traditions and that schedule and that habit. When houses become separated, is when the real challenge comes in, especially if you have younger children. As they get older, the kids kind of establish their own schedule, and then that obviously presents its own challenges with maintaining continuity because they want to do their own thing. But like in a separated house, it when you don't have the same amount of time to dedicate or the same amount of resources available, families are split, the resources to provide the stuff are split, the houses are split, everything is done. Maintaining that sense of continuity and those traditions and stuff like that for the family becomes tough. Like I know for me, I was very close with my former in-laws. Like I love that family. I was very, very close with my former in-laws. They were, and I still feel that they are fantastic people, even though they really have no desire to reach out and contact me anymore, which is a real shame. But there are a lot of things that when I was married before that we did on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day that aligned with their family stuff that was awesome. And I can't replicate those at my place. So like now, depending on where the kids are, now the burden falls on coming up with new ways, new traditions, new ways of doing things. And especially as families kind of come back together in different ways and things change, it becomes a challenge during the holidays.
I, on a similar note, but totally far-fetched from what you're saying, also, I guess people who just have young kids also have the additional problem of family members who want everybody to be together on the day on Christmas, let's say, and it's like, well, I want my kids to wake up at my house with my tree and their presents and not be having to like go off to somewhere else. So I mean, like you were saying
Yeah.
that there's a difference between older kids, which I don't have, and younger kids. But part of the thing is that some of the older generation had younger kids, so you got this tradition of going to their home, you know, because it was their kids, and you wanted to celebrate with them, and and now it's like you have your own kids, and it's like I don't want to be going to your house, man. Like I got my own thing going on, and there's a not a, like definitely with us. I mean, between all the different families, between my brother and Heather's sister and all, it's kind of like a tussle when it comes to Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and Easter. Like, whose house do you go to? Who celebrates it? And what do you have to do? And how do you save face with just like, yeah, I'm coming.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because like with my kids, as they get older, obviously we're still under a mandated schedule on where they go and when they're there and blah, 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 blah. But one of the things that I've talked about with my kids is, and I found, and this is interesting, I said, there's going to come a point in time where you guys are going to get to the age where you guys will be able to choose where you go, what you do, and how and who you want to spend your time with, right? So it won't be set by some external schedule. You will get to choose that. I tend to put a lot of my focus with my kids on establishing a sense of comfort and familiarity and a want to come here because they feel like they're more validated people when they're here than when they're elsewhere. So that when the time comes and they get older and they want to spend holidays with someplace where they choose to go voluntarily, they consider coming here. And I think I've talked to my boys. I mean, and it's not for like nefarious purpose. It's just the way to raise them, And I think they found that gifts alone are not going to make them choose to go to a given place. It's how a given environment or a given place makes them feel as people. That will factor heavily into that, as they get older.
We were talking a little bit earlier about how size of family. It sounds like Jason has a huge family. It's like there's a lot of people around. I think the same is true with Doug. That's for sure. It's a very interesting opposite perspective here. And this goes down a lot of other paths that aren't necessarily connected to holidays and raising kids, but I come from a very small family. And some of you know, my father's family mostly perished in the concentration camps in World War II. So leaving Europe was dad, his brother, his father, his mother, and one cousin, and everybody else died. So here, there's not that much in the way of family, but we've started to build a little bit, started to restock the family line, if you will. So the boys have two cousins in California, one in Colorado. They actually talk a lot by social media and by text and such, but they don't see each other very often. There's never been exchanges of gifts between those families. We've never spent holidays together, at least not like Hanukkah, anything like that. So it's not a gift giving kind of relationship. If you, I don't think it would be even if we were there at the time of the holidays or they were here. But it's a much different dynamic when there's only a few people. When it's a very small group, if you will. I actually learned. I guess it was about 5 or 6 years ago that I actually have a cousin. I spent my whole life thinking I didn't even have any cousins. And I discovered that my uncle in Brazil has a son, which comes as quite a shock. But and I've never spoken to the guy, but I know he's there. And he kind of looks a little bit like a younger version of me too, which is disturbing.
Very,
very disturbing. Yes, if you've seen the younger version of me, that's really horrifying. But it's a whole different dynamic. I think it's a little easier to manage. Dave said something that makes a lot of sense to me. And when I was getting divorced, I said to the boys, and we all talked about it together, because at that point, I think when I filed for divorce, Jeremy was 15. He's the younger one. And it was very obvious very quickly that they were going to choose what they wanted to do. And Justin has never spent a night of his life in her house. But Jeremy, in the beginning, the 1 year after the divorce, where it made sense, where he was still in high school, he spent a week there, and then he spent a week, and then he would come back and forth if he needed to for marching band, robotics, or whatever. And we did a lot of sharing. And back then we got along pretty well, so I would go over there and pick him up, or she'd come over here and pick him up, or whatever. At that point, it was pretty easy going. She does tend to get much more robust in the holiday season when it comes to gift giving.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised in a world where, as it really is, Hanukkah is a very minor holiday, not this Christmassy thing that.
No, it's not.
She took it the other way, and there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but she would lavish them with all sorts of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, just as to wrap it up for me, that I learned there's one moment in our history where I learned what the value of presents was to them. It was during the divorce process, where it happened to be Hanukkah that year, and she comes bounding down the stairs. The kids are sitting in the living room, and she's clearly holding something behind her back. It's one of the Hanukkah, and she looks at Jeremy. I think she looks well. Guess what your present is tonight? What do you want the most? And Jeremy looked at her with a very straight face and said, "For you two to get along."
Oh, that's beautiful.
He could have cared less what was behind her back, and boy, she was crushed by that. Yeah, the kids have, I raised them in a way, it's the same thing. They're not particularly materialistic. I think Doug said that. I'm very bad at waiting for holidays. If they need something, I go get it for them.
Yeah.
In September of last year, not this year, but of last year, I bought Justin his laptop. It was something for school too, but
yeah,
pretty expensive stuff. I wasn't going to say, well, you'll get that, and I didn't say later that was your Hanukkah present. I don't think that way.
No, me neither.
So again, it's Hanukkah and Father's Day and all those holidays. All whenever I see them, it doesn't matter.
It's funny. You use a good choice of word when you talk about the X and saying guess what your present is. And it made me think of a kind of a wordplay thing. I do this a lot, about presents, right? So presents is something that we associate with gifts that we give to those that we love. And in terms of our kids, I think less about presence TS and more about presence CE.
Mm-hmm.
Kids want to
Wow.
embrace your presence. Like, they want to know that you're there, and they want to know that you are there with them, not be distracted by some crap that they may want, they may not want, something that's in pretty little packages and bows. I kind of focus more on the CE version of presence. I think, you sharing that story, Keith, and about what your youngest said. I mean, think about that. That plays into it. That's exactly what he was wanting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He's
had several moments like that where he said things that were very blunt.
Yeah, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I can, you mentioned that, the presence thing. I'm actually, need to apologize for a second of why I've been, if anybody knows, I've been flashing off and on. I just got a message from my former sponsor that his brother-in-law passed away. We were supposed to go see Black Panther, and he just messaged me saying he can't go. But it's in the long run, it's a situation where it will be better off. There's a lot of circumstances around, but in the process of now, I actually just celebrated 2.5 years Thursday. In the process of that, one of the things that my former sponsors constantly said to me, and he had it in the back of his phone, his old phone. His phone broke and he actually had to get a new one. I think it might be there again. I'm not sure. Is he used to say, he still says it, be where your feet are.
Yep.
And in AA, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
And it's a big thing in life now, outside of life. There's certain things that are said in AA, that are AA slogans, that are AA comments. A lot of it, even the 12 steps, no matter what you want to admit. My suggestion is, if you've never been in any kind of program, is take a minute one day, sit there and read 12 steps.
Yeah, it's awesome stuff.
Realize how much of it translates into real life for everyone, not just for people who have had problems. It really translates into everyone's life. And there are people who I've heard people say, well, they need to do a 12-step. A lot of people on this planet can benefit from that don't have addiction issues. But yeah, you're talking about presence. Yeah. Be where your feet are. That's a big thing. Speaking of where your feet are, Doug, I see your feet are apparently on the ground now. Look like you were up in the air there for a minute.
Actually, I'm on the ladder. Trying to hang this star.
And you mentioned, Doug, that you have I don't know, your kids aren't in earshot, right?
No, but thank you for asking.
Okay, because I don't want to say anything and ruin anybody's deal. But last year was the addressment of Sadie finding out the truth.
Yes.
So one of the things was, and somebody, Doug, you posted the meme earlier in the week, yesterday possibly, about running around at 5:45 in the morning, moving me out. They've been in charge of the elf, and it's been an interesting week since the elf has come down the steps. I had to take it out of the freezer last night because it was in the way. But I honestly got an early jump on it, and got the lights up last Saturday. We had an almost 70-degree day in November in New Jersey. It was a shock. And I got them up, and we got the tree up, and usually I put on some music, and I didn't have my phone to put on anything different or anything. It's just normal Christmas music. So I pulled out two of the three records that I have that are Christmas. One of them being South Park, the South Park Mr. Hanky Christmas, which Delana really kind of gets a kick out of and enjoys. She's watched it, she's seen it, she gets a lot of the humor. She's 11 going on 12, so she gets it. She laughs at a lot of it. Sadie laughs at what she understands, and which is a lot, impressive amount for an 8-year-old. And then the other one that I played was the Twisted, a very Twisted Christmas, which is Twisted Sister reworking Christmas classics.
Great album, awesome live show. I saw it a couple of times in New York.
Even better on vinyl, actually.
Yeah.
On vinyl, it's unbelievable. Because there's a lot of nuances in Dee Snider's voice that you don't hear on tape or on the old on digital, because he has some real cool, interesting nuances in his voice. He actually is a classically trained singer, believe it or not.
Yes, he is.
For being a screecher. The one I didn't put on was the Smithereens doing, it's not Christmas per se. It's about as much Christmas as Die Hard really is a Christmas movie.
It is.
The Smithereens doing Tommy's the Who's Tommy, which there's a lot of Christmas themed music in it, because there's a large chunk of the original play that happens in the couple of weeks near Christmas. So it's not Christmas, but it is. There's a couple of songs in there that are legitimately could be Christmas songs, and I've heard them on the Christmas channel sometimes. Speaking of the Christmas channels, we were in South Carolina before Christmas on vacation, and unfortunately, Sirius XM started that the day after Halloween. So I've been tortured with Christmas music for almost a month and a half now. And I've actually been torturing my friends on our Facebook group with some. I don't hate Christmas music. I like the more non-traditional stuff. The stuff where it's, the Monkees doing. I saw a medley of Christmas songs where it was the first time that if they did it for MTV, and it was the first time that the four of them had actually been seen together in 15 years. So that's like a big moment for me. Another one, two famous Christmas videos that were done for MTV. One of them is Billy Squires' "Christmas is the Time to Say I Love You," and if you watch behind them, Mark Goodman, JJ Jackson, Nina Blackwood, Alan Hunter, and Martha Quinn are in the video the entire time. They're all sitting there rocking behind Billy Squires. He's playing the song. The other one is the Bryan Adams one, where Pee Wee Herman starts it and they're all dancing around. Again, you see all of them dancing around, but in all these videos, most of the company, this is a Christmas party, and most of the company probably does not remember shooting the video. Because if you watch Nina Blackwood and Martha Quinn especially, they're hammered. And so is everybody else around them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I said, I mean, I like making new traditions. Like even Christmas morning there, I made it once and I might actually bring it back, of making breakfast, which will end up being a Dutch baby pancake or something. Some different things.
TikTok cinnamon buns actually work. It's really a difference.
What is that? What TikTok cinnamon buns? Go ahead.
I don't know. They have some kind of TikTok video with cinnamon buns, and my wife has been jazzing them up using the video, and it makes a real difference.
I think Delana mentioned something about the TikTok cinnamon bun video. I don't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, somebody mentioned it to me.
Oh yeah, I just was gonna say about presents and giving, and it's like one of those things where it's not like it's not where anybody was going, but I see that with my brother and his family, and with us, it's more about making memories now. And I'm not opposed to it compared to the traditional, like Chad was saying, where it's like 100 presents underneath the tree. And that's always nice to come down to and see it. And you're like, amazement. And I remember those years living in Lawrence Harbor and coming down the stairs and seeing the bike under the tree and just like mountains of toys. It was like back then it was Transformers and stuff like that, and the mag rims on the bike and stuff. But now making memories and taking kids to like shows and stuff. Like we got tickets for Brendan for like Funny Girl. He wants to see that on Broadway, and Colin wants to see Arctic Monkey, so we got him those tickets. And bought some records for the kids and stuff. And I took like this week to Brendan to see Morrissey
Nice.
stuff. So it's like we're trying to find their little niche and how they're going to grow into their adulthood, and also like please like their like wants, well, maybe not necessarily wants, but like family things. We got tickets for today for Krampus up in Jim Thorpe, and we got tickets to go over. Well, they're actually free. They're doing over in Allentown. They're doing the Nutcracker, and it's done by the Allentown Philharmonic thing. So
Ooh.
yeah,
Nice.
so I mean, there's also that too, which is a good
We-
time right now to do.
So you said you took Brendan to see Morrissey?
Yeah,
Did
Thursday.
he come home depressed?
Well, before the pandemic, way before the pandemic, we had, and when it comes back, I'll get him again. We had tickets. We were taking. Was it Brendan to
Yeah,
see
Brendan.
Nick Cave?
Yep.
We'll as soon as that comes back around, which we're still waiting. He hasn't done a band tour, which I think will probably come next year sometime, probably the spring. We'll finally get to go see that. But Brendan's got some pretty cool taste. Now, Funny Girl, I want to ask you one question about that. Is that the one with Leah Michelle?
I don't know at this point who is doing it on Broadway.
It was the Barbara Streisand originally,
Yes,
right?
yes. Well, yeah, definitely.
Leah
I know that.
Michelle from Glee. She was on the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Uh-huh.
Phenomenal. She
Oh.
sounds absolutely phenomenal in the role. If she's
Yeah.
if it's her, she's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't touch Barbara, but she's gonna come close.
Yeah, he's all excited. I mean, well, he doesn't know he's getting them, but he's been talking about it for like a while. So yeah.
And now we know why Doug walks around the neighborhood when he's talking to us, because he doesn't want them to know what we're talking about.
Well, although Big Linda, I'll have to let her know that Doug's back on. So
So I was going to say a story I forgot to tell you guys. So there's some Panamanian students that go to the university here, and some of them are from what's called the Darien province. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but if you take the Intercontinental Highway, it goes all the way from, I want to say, Alaska down to the tip of Argentina, except there's one area where it's cut out, and that's the Darien province, because it's so tough, and you have to. I think usually people will ferry their cars around, or motorcycles, whatever they have, around that area, but it's a really tough part of the country. It's a jungle, lots of dangerous animals, snakes. I want to say there's panthers there. In addition to being some pretty bad banditos, there's some bandits there as well that will take all of your stuff, etc. So people typically do not go in there. Well, some of these students that are here, they were given a scholarship because they were from very poor areas, but they were the valedictorians of their class. So one of the students, it was very interesting. They couldn't reach him by cell phone, so they flew in a helicopter out to notify him of his scholarship. But even talking about his life, he gets up at 7 a.m, goes to work with his family. This is when he lived there, and then about 11:30, he'd have to walk a couple hours to a school. And he said he always tried to do really good there, but he'd never seen a Christmas tree, and they never put a Christmas tree up. So we had him, and they're indigenous people, right? So they speak their home language first, then Spanish, and now they're learning English. but we had a couple of the indigenous folks over and a couple of the other ones as well when we put up our Christmas tree. So they thought that was really cool. So we actually had them help do everything. So I was like, yes, because I'm tired of putting up the Christmas tree. So I was like, oh yeah, just do this. But they really enjoyed it. So it was a great experience, I think, for them. But then that leads me into the next question, was when we're talking about the presents and the gifts. My wife growing up in Columbia, they really didn't have gifts that they celebrate. Christmas is a long season. It's a holiday season there, starting on December 7th with the lighting of the candles, right? So they light candles, and then on the night before, they have a great meal. On the 25th, it's less important, but I think they go to church, but they don't really exchange gifts or anything. And then the New Year, they have a celebration, but nobody has presents. And so now what they're doing, what my wife likes to do, is she'll look at what her family needs. So like we're sending, like, her mom and dad are getting shoes. We send to our nieces, we send like some clothes and some things like that, but it's all things that they really need. So I think they really enjoy that. And it's, that I think that's more the spirit of Christmas, is what they need. And they're super thankful for everything that we send to them. But it's just,
Mhm.
the other thing is remembering, kind of when we see the differences. When I used to buy a shit ton of presents for Frankie, now we're just buying basic necessities for people. It kind of puts you more on a grounded surface, I think. And the other thing I want to say is that I really think that the Dave's comment earlier about presence versus presence is a great one. I really like that. I think that's a way to live life.
And there's also a good amount of charity to think about at this time too, whether it's the guy ringing the bell, or if you volunteer and do something like a soup kitchen type thing.
Mhm.
It's a great time to,
Mhm.
it shouldn't be just this time of year, but it mostly comes to mind at this time. I mean, like our barbershop is doing the coat drive, the mayor's doing the gloves and socks drive. We've traditionally done soup kitchens as well, because the soup kitchens in this area isn't as needy as a big city. But once the
Mhm.
weather hits a certain temperature, that's when they open up here. So,
My
that's a whole other thing. So,
my
yeah.
my urologist that I went to for the when I had the kidney stone, um, there's a sign on the door about they're doing a coat drive there, from the urologist, and the group themselves is doing one. I thought it was pretty neat to see, and they started it in like September, October, um, because I think I remember seeing, maybe I don't remember the day I went for the first, well, the appointment that I had when I actually still had the stone. I don't remember. I was kind of a little out of it still at that point, because it was only a couple hours after I had gotten out of the hospital. But when I actually went for the follow up, definitely it was there. The sign was there, and that was late October. So yeah, it was. They've had it for a while, which I think is great. And I know there's a guy who runs a very small farm in out of Cheesequake Village over in Old Bridge here, that he had Santa Claus, I think, yesterday, and he does Toys for Tots as well. There's a couple of local restaurants that, one of my friends' restaurants, they did a Toys for Tots every year. And I don't know about after the pandemic now. I haven't been there in a while, but I don't know if they're doing it. But they used to. Um, so yeah,
Can't forget,
what's that?
can't forget Crystal. Can't forget Crystal and the Beanie Babies or whatever they were that she brought up to the hospitals.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I think I told you guys yesterday I was headed up to we headed out to a party last night, Toys for Tots, disco themed. Man, it was a great party, and they had several Marines there, retired Marines that were representing the campaign for Toys for Tots. We had a couple big boxes, but it was really neat. They set up a wish list on Amazon, and they had selected the toys. So we just went through and just selected, like 20 toys and had them sent directly to their address. And so they've got them now. And, it's a great thing that they did. And then the other thing we've got is the foundation for the Sick Kids Coming Up World Pediatric Project. So that we have the big party, and the big fundraiser for that is later in January.
Where'd Keith go? I just see an empty chair.
And I've never looked better either. Sorry about that.
So Keith, I also heard there's a charity. It's called Toupees for Bald Men. So I'm very excited about it. I don't know how you feel, but
I was just going to shave hair off of other parts of my body and just put it on top. What do you think?
I think I post every year for around his birthday, which will come up again in the group or somewhere along the way. The picture of him where he looks like the reject from the sports center anchor position.
I look good in that picture. Thank you very much.
Well, and I was even thinking if we could get him a mullet wig, maybe. And then Dave was saying earlier, it's declawed in the front, but it's clawed in the back. So it can work for a mullet too, right?
Now you guys have given me a lot to think about today. It's and I kind of go through this thought process every year of the holidays, because the kids were raised in an environment where they were lavish with presents that were technically from both their mother and their father and their grandparents. But in behind the doors, I always fought with my now ex-wife, because I didn't want them to live in a world where they were just constantly buried in stuff that you wind up having no meaning. Not just because it was too much of it, but because if you're constantly getting presents, there's no meaning. You lose the specialness of it. And she and I definitely disagreed on it, although we negotiated better things over the years. I mean, in the beginning, we would spend hundreds of dollars every day of each of the 8 days of Hanukkah. And toward the end, there was like one day where it was a couple $100 on something, and then the other days would be very minor, $5 things, which is what it should be. Well, not the couple $100 at the end there, but the other days. I've watched the boys; they've definitely gravitated toward my philosophy, because they look at things, and we get things when we need them, and every now and then I give them something that they just it would be nice for them to have. Like we'll do sporting events during the year. It's not like I'm going to say you have to wait till December for me to get you the tickets to that July, Yankee game. That's just not how it is. But they're very keenly aware that each of those is a special present. It's something that comes out of a wallet that's not necessarily that deep, so it has meaning because of the lack of wallet, if you will. I think we've done in particular, I hope I've done a very good job of raising them in that mindset. And I don't think it diminishes holidays. I think it just gives them the perspective of what's special in life, and it's not necessarily what Hallmark or religion says is a particularly different day.
Yeah, I think I really tried to ingrain into Frankie, and then also into Anna. It's a good thing to give back to people. So now she wants to get something like a Toys for Tots, but in Colombia, and try to help people. And I'm like, if we want to make a difference down there, let's try to figure out a way to help train them or teach them in some way to kind of break the cycle. It's a tough gig down there, but help them to think more about their relationship with money and how to work and how to save. But I've always told Frank, I said, we've been given some gifts and intelligence, and if you work a little bit, you can ensure the security of your family, and then you can start helping other people. And so that's what we're trying to do too. So
yeah, there's value to be found not just in items, but there's value to be found in values. Like, being the best person that you can be and learning how to prioritize relationships in other ways. in addition to physical things, and understanding the value of each and how each can impact. I mean, that's something, obviously we talk on occasion about religions and things like that on this thing, but honestly, like and look, I am not your prototype Christian in the world, I will admit that, but Christ was a badass dude, and one of the things that he valued was like valuing others over stuff. And he didn't care who you were from or where you were from or what lifestyle you lived. He didn't give a crap. That's what matters, is the relationships that you make and the value that you put into that. And I like that's something that, during the holidays, as we go through this holiday, I think that is something that we can strive to reinforce as a present to our new generation, to get them to carry that forward if possible.
You bring up a good point, and I think this is probably a good place for us to leave this for this week, as we button up against an hour. And I mean, like I said, my thought is we're just getting back into this pretty much after 2 months. We've been, there's been a lot going on, and so we will get into some of that along the way.
Sure.
But you bring up a good point, Dave. And it comes to the fact that we've been, even with our breaks, we've been in constant contact with each other for the better part of 3 years now, doing this for 4 of us. 6 months almost for Dave.
Yeah.
I mean, the word family does get thrown around a lot, but when you build relationships, like when not even forced to be doing this, we're not forced to do this.
Nope.
We do this because we want to do it. We do this because usually we like each other. We do have our moments where we argue, fuss, and fight, but that's every relationship.
Yeah.
Any way you look at it. And there are times I think we probably have all wanted to say fuck you to each other, and we do it, and then we move on.
We do it by choice. We
Right.
choose this.
And then we
as dumb as we are, we choose this.
we're adults and move on from saying fuck you 2 minutes ago, and 10 minutes later it's gone.
Yeah.
But that's like any family, any brotherhood. I honestly have said this before. I love you guys, and I thank you for doing this with me, and I thank you for being my friends. And more than friends, I really appreciated spending Thanksgiving with dumbass over there, because partly because although he's from Homedale, my in-laws are from Brooklyn, there was a lot of similarities at that table, and there was a lot of memories that were getting thrown around. It was kind of like, but an interesting thing was, Lisa and I, before we went on vacation, the night before we went on vacation, we went to see Vic DiBattista, the comedian. And if you listen back to some of his old bits about how he talks about being around family during the holidays and things like that, that transcends every walk of life. It doesn't matter religion, race, color your skin, any sexual preferences, nothing. It translates to everyone. It means something to everyone. Everyone can grab something out of his bits and go, yeah, that's my family. But yeah, we're coming into it. It's been a rough few years, and we're finally, I think, into a point where I said it last year, where the sense of family normalcy will come back, hopefully, into its fullest extent.
Yeah.
This year and in the years coming.
And I will say to dovetail on that, just as you were thankful to spend Thanksgiving with Keith, I was very, very thankful to have Keith there last Monday, and I can't thank you enough for that. As we get into this time of reestablishing normalcy with your family, Embrace the family that you have while you have them.
We love you, Dave. We really do. We love you, brother.
Thanks, guys.
So, from all of us here,
I was hoping to make it all the way through without doing this, so here we are.
Listen, Dave, before you joined the podcast, we were connected on Facebook, so you know what my last year has been like too.
Yeah.
I can only echo your words.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
From all of us here at Dads on Life, take care, everybody.
Have a good week.
See you later.
Bye.